Hey everyone, welcome back to another very exciting Unity Particle VFX tutorial, and today we're just going to be creating this simple snowflake effect that you see here in the background. Now, although for the simulation that you see right now, I'm using a few different textures for the snow, you can just as well use the default particle texture and you'll still get pretty good results. And in fact, for the tutorial, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, and at the end you can switch out for whatever other textures you might have lying around. And I'm just going to quickly insert a cut here where I show you another particle system simulation where I've got some more advanced stuff going on where I've got entire snow sheets, which is, just a bunch of snowflakes on a single texture, which might help you save on the particle count. And if you've got specific snowflake-looking particles, you can also use those instead, like I've got here, which actually looks really nice in its own way as well. So, really, without any further delay, let's get started. So I'm just going to stop this right now, and the first thing, of course, that I'm going to do is create a new particle system. Now we're going to leave it, of course, as the default particle that you see right here. And next, I'm going to change the shape to a box, because we want it to be a boxed emitter, similar to the rain tutorial that I had, somewhere up in the sky. So let's just reset this, okay, move this up maybe, say, 10 units, 10 meters above the ground. And then we could also just stretch it out using this if we change this to only emitter, but for now let's just change this to 10, 1, and 10, right? So you have the box right here that you'd have following the player around. So you can either make it local simulation space if you want all the particles to move with the player as they move around, or you can make it world space where only the emitter moves around and your particles will be falling from there. So for this, let's just set the start speed to 0, and the lifetime, we'll keep that as 5 for now. Set the velocity, enable a module for velocity, and set this to negative, maybe 2. Okay, so there you go. I mean, you already have some sort of snowflake sort of thing going on. Doesn't look that good right now, but set this to random between two constants, actually, and set this to negative 2, so you have a little bit of variation in the speed at which the snowflakes are falling. You can maybe increase this to 10. How much? Let's see. Okay, that's not too bad. They just barely go off below the plane. And next, let's adjust the start size a little bit. Set this to random between two constants. Let's see what would look good. Okay, so maybe that, 2, 1. That looks okay to me. It's a little bit big. We can also do a little trick where we can prevent the snowflakes from getting too big as the player might be walking through them like this, just by changing the max particle size to something like 0.5, right? So it'll never be bigger than that much of the screen, the texture, which look good in the long run. Okay, so we can either have a lot of particles or just a few particles. Right now we only have 100 particles and very, very little overdraw, which is actually a good thing. If you want more depth, you can always add more. So let's try, 100 in our case. So we have the maximum. We're hitting the limit here with 1,000 particles. You can see right here. Okay, so, and that looks good. Okay, so next, let's vary the direction on X and Z that they're moving. So let's set this to maybe -1 and 1. Set this to -1 and 1. So now you can have the snowflakes kind of moving around a little bit more naturally, right? And actually, that's really about it. That's how easy it is. You can also play with the noise if you wanted to, but the thing is, once they hit the ground, even though you might want them to stop, the noise will still affect that. So I'm hoping Unity in the future will have some sort of parameter to control that. Or you can always script it manually. One final thing, of course, we can do is enable collisions, set this to world space, and now they hit the ground. Set the bounce to 0, dampen to 1 so they stop moving, and yeah, and maybe turn down the radius a little bit. Okay, and yeah, there you go. Now you have snow that hits the ground. You might want it to fade out, so let's enable the color over lifetime module. And maybe right at the end of its lifetime, you have it fading out. There's going to be some delay here because of the collision simulation, but there we go. Okay, so let's see how that looks like. I'm going to enable pre-warm so I can quickly preview this. Yep, and now they're just fading out gently. That looks good to me. You can always also... so now I'll show you how to swap out the textures, right? So for my case, I've got a 2x2 sprite sheet, which I call snow sheet, I think, or I don't know what I call it. This thing right here, alpha. And what I'm going to do is set the texture sheet animation to be 2 on X and 2 on Y, because there's 4 frames. And then what it's going to do is just randomly select one of these frames from 0 to 3, right? So it starts at 0, 1, 2, 3. That's 4 frames right there. And then for this, I'd have to actually turn the size down a bit, maybe by half, maybe more than half, but for now I'll just leave it at that. And then just because I have the material to have some overblown colors, there you go, right? And at this point, you might also want to maybe tweak the start rotation a little bit. So let's see what that looks like. You might want it 3D, so it's actually a little bit off, like so, and then negative 360 and 360 around the Z. So you can see the particles actually, the cards themselves, don't always align perfectly to the camera, and that just gives a little bit more variation. As I mentioned before, you might want noise enabled, but in this case, the particles will actually jump off the ground once they hit, which for windy situations might be exactly what you want. Anyways, that's about it. So you can go ahead and just continue using the default particle, right? If that suits you, if you don't have any textures lying around, for a more simple effect. Not as realistic, but still pretty good. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see for future tutorials. Subscribe, and yeah. Alright, bye.